Hello and welcome to Action Playbook Live. I am Gilles Gallant, and you are watching the NFL pregame betting show here with the Action Network and Playbook. We're live on YouTube and Twitter with the Playbook Twitter handle. And we cover a lot here each week. We got player props, touchdown bets, parlays for week 16, but we're not just doing player props. We still want to talk about the sides and totals and how the market is moving on that. Nick Giffen will join us to talk about the luck rankings for week 16. Evan Abrams, our director of research here at the Action Network, he's going to give us some of the latest betting trends and those market moves for week 16. And joining me off the hop are Sean Kerner and Chris Raybon. We are going to give out a couple of player props that we like for week 16. And if you want to tail any of these bets, the easiest way is to use the quick slip links that we're going to be dropping in the YouTube chat. So as we give out a pick, there's going to be a link dropped in the YouTube chat. You can click that link, take you directly to the sports book. You can get the best lines and the best odds because some of these props, especially the ones that Kerner and Raybon give out, they're going to move pretty quickly once they go out. So before we give out the props, let's talk about Action Pro, because if you want access to all of Action Pro projections, make sure to sign up for an annual subscription, because access includes exclusive player prop picks from Sean Kerner, Chris Raybon, all the members of the Action Analytics team. To sign up, visit actionnetwork.com/pro today. Use code POD20 at sign up. One more time, that is POD20 at sign up for $20 off. So we start with Sean Kerner, the man, the myth, the legend. What are we doing for week 16?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bucky Irving under 16 and a half rush attempts. And I somehow hit this bet last week by a half, despite the fact that, the Bucks played with the lead for most of that game against the Falcons. They only trailed for a few minutes in the entire game. And then ultimately, as, the Falcons kicked the game-winning field goal as regulation expired. So, it was a perfect game for him to rack up a ton of carries, but they opted to pass at the highest rate of the season, which I kind of expected with their, wide receiver room finally healthy. 15 weeks into the season, they finally had their entire starting unit healthy at the same time. So I expect them to be a little bit more pass heavy going forward. And I was also surprised the fact that they only gave Rachaad White one carry in that game. He went for 20 yards, but he currently ranks first in success rate among 49 qualified running backs in the league. And meanwhile, Bucky actually ranks dead last out of those 49 running backs in success rate. So I would expect them to give Rachaad White at least some carries on early downs today to kind of chip into Bucky's workload. And we've seen, Sean Tucker
Yeah.
really mixing in short yardage and goal line situations. And that specifically, eats into Bucky's, rush attempt share. I'm projecting him closer to 15.4 still, with around a 60% chance he stays under 16 and a half carries today.
Yeah, I was really surprised with how high this line is, just given the emergence of Sean Tucker and even just Baker's scrambling rate, like just kind of in some of these matchups, right? So under 16 and a half rush attempts is Kerner's first prop. That is Bucky Irving, under 16 and a half rush attempts against the Carolina Panthers. So Raybon, you are up, and I see another under here. What are we doing?
Yeah, let's go Cedric Tillman under 13 and a half receiving yards. It might even be 14 and a half at some spots, but he's been under this in three of Shedeur Sanders' four starts. He's averaging just 7 yards receiving per game, with Shedeur Sanders with a median of 2.5. And that's with him operating as the number 2 wide receiver for 3 of those 4 games. Last game, he was on the injury report, and he ended up operating as the number 5 wide receiver. He played a season low 12% snap. So he's been going under this even with, playing 60 to 70% of the snaps and running 60 to 70% of the routes. There's a chance he doesn't get much playing time in this game. And you're also dealing with just the weather. This could be a very run heavy script for Cleveland as long as they can do it, because Buffalo's a weak run D and 27-degree temps, 15-mile-per-hour winds. Tillman's more of a downfield kind of boundary receiver, so the accuracy not really there for the Browns quarterbacks, and it could be a bad weather game. So like Cedric Tillman under 13 and a half receiving yards.
What a fall for Tillman. I mean, I think entering the season, he would have been like wide receiver 2 in this offense, like you said, now dropping to wide receiver 5. So yeah, against the Bills secondary, going under 13 and a half receiving yards, maybe even see a 14 and a half out there for Cedric Tillman. So that is Raybon's best bet for week 16. I'm sticking with that game too, but I think those wins are actually going to impact Josh Allen, and I'm going to take his interception. I'm going to take it. I got it at plus 125. I am seeing right now at Bet365 Bet365, there's like a plus 140 out there. But 10 interceptions this year for Josh Allen, 10 plus in 7 of 9 seasons. Also, we see Josh Allen's interception rate or his turnover worthy play rate. It goes up when he's pressured and blitzed. Well, that's the Browns' MO. They're top 5 in pressure rate per drop back, top 5 in blitz rate. And 7 of Allen's 10 interceptions this year have come when seeing pressure. So I think given the last 2 games where he's kind of been putting on his superhero cape kind of thing, I think this is a great buy low spot to take Josh Allen's interception, especially with how strong the Browns are against the run. So I think Allen will be forced to throw a little bit more. And if that's the case, then, an interception could come through. So that is my favorite interception bet of the week, Josh Allen. Normally, I like to do a touchdown bet here, but I'm going to save those for the end of the show. Kerner, you're going to join me. We're going to give out some touchdown bets that we like for week 16. Also, we're going to have more touchdown bets as well. Grant Neefer's going to join us here for a touchdown, like a lotto parlay. Nick Giffin's going to have a parlay as well that involves a touchdown. So lots of fun touchdown bets coming up. But Ray Von Kerner, you guys take a quick break. We'll get you back here. We'll talk about Sunday Night Football. Let's talk with Derek Carty now and see what picks he likes for Week 16. We now welcome back to Action Playbook Live. Derek Carty, creator of the Blitz projections for the NFL. You can follow him in the Action app at Derek Carty. And remember, he's got 2 props for today. The lines may move as he gives them out. So we're going to put quick slip links in the YouTube chat, and you can tail these bets. Click that link. It'll take you directly to the sports book. So, Derek, why don't you get us started? Where are you going for your first prop this week?
First one I'm looking at is Ty Johnson, under 1.5 receptions, plus 140 at Bet365 is the best odds on the board right now. But at any sort of plus money, this looks good to me. The Blitz is projecting 1.43, so better than 50-50 chance of this hitting. I think we're getting this plus money because of recency bias. If you look at the game logs, Ty Johnson has gone over this in just 7 of 14. So in half of his games, he's gone over, and half he's gone under. But all of those overs have come in the last 7 games. So 7 games in a row, he's gone over. So it feels scary to take the under on this. But if you look under the hood, not a whole lot has really changed other than just he's been getting some extra targets that I think we have to expect to regress a little bit. In his first 7 games, he ran a route on 34% of the dropbacks and got 3% of the targets. In his last 7 games, he's run a route on 38% of the dropbacks, but he's gotten 10% of the targets. If we expect somewhere in the middle there, if we expect it to stabilize somewhere around, 6-7%, we're just getting clear value on this. It helps that this game sets up well for Buffalo unders anyway. They're 10.5 point favorites, so they should be running the ball more than they're passing it here. There's a little bit of wind in the forecast, so this one looks good to me. It feels scary because he's done it 7 games in a row. But overall, this has been a profitable one this year. If you were to get it at this odds every time, the projection says it's going to be good. So I'm rolling with it.
Well, and the thing too with Ty Johnson and Ray Davis, like that backfield, typically Ty Johnson's more used when they're in a trailing game script, but
Right.
obviously them being pretty large favorites in this game, and just obviously the weather too. I think the other thing too with Ty Johnson, especially over the last 7 games, the in and out of the lineup with Dalton Kincaid and the wide receiver flux, I think that's probably led to some of that. But I think now some of those guys are coming back, so yeah, just not as much targets to go around, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so Ty Johnson under 1.5 receptions against that Browns defense. You can get that right now around plus 140. Where are we going with the second one?
Second one's even scarier, but we are looking at Mike Evans under 65.5 receiving yards, minus 102 at Caesars is the best line on the board right now. You never like fading a guy like Mike Evans, but a lot of times that's why we're offered value, because the books know people don't really want to bet unders on star players like Mike Evans. But you look at the Blitz, you look at pretty much any projection system that's out there this week, the Blitz is projecting 54 yards for him. So we are getting value on the under. As good as Mike Evans is, this is a really crowded wide receiver room for the Tampa Bay Bucks right now. They have Evans healthy, they have Godwin healthy, they have Igbuka, they have Jalen McMillan healthy, who they've talked this week of trying to find a way to get him more involved. And I think the only way that happens is if snaps come away from some of these other receivers like Evans. Plus, Evans didn't play his regular snap count last week. It was his first game back from injury. He's still probably building up. I would expect one more week of kind of that sub 100% level for him. Plus, we have a slow-paced game here. We have Tampa Bay as the favorites against Carolina. Could wind up being a run-heavy game script if they get out to a lead. So as gross as this one feels, I think that's why we're getting the value we are on it, and so I will take it.
Yeah, and I think the thing too with the Panthers is very good at limiting explosive plays, especially from the pass and the run. So I think that's the one thing with Evans is that he might get to 60, but it's probably going to be a lot of dinking and dunking. I can't imagine he's going to be able to get like a 35-yard bomb on them, where that's kind of where the might be the big concern here. But like you said, very crowded room in the Buccaneers wide receiver staff. So and if this hits, I mean, gambling Twitter, they might not want to talk to you ever again, because I feel like everybody right now on gambling Twitter is all over his overs for this week against the Panthers. But
Yep.
Derek is going to be the brave one. Take the under 65.5 receiving yards for Mike Evans. And he's also going to be on Ty Johnson under 1.5 receptions. You can get that both at plus money. And the quick sip links have just been dropped in the YouTube chat. So follow Derek in the Action app at Derek Hardy. Derek, we'll see you on Monday for Action Island.
All right. Thanks so much for having me.
We now welcome in Dr. Nick Giffen, the creator of the Luck Rankings. You can read up on this every week in the Action app, where he breaks down the luckiest or the unluckiest NFL teams based on what we saw on the field. Now, Nick, I see 3 picks here that you like for this week. Where are we starting?
Yeah, there's actually 4 luck games this week. Only have time for 3 of them, so let's get right to them. Gonna take the New York Football Giants plus 2.5 against the Minnesota Vikings. This one is a D-graded luck game. The luck score, I have to go to 3 decimal places here, is 1.456 because our threshold is 1.454. So this just barely clears our threshold as a luck game. So that gives us a 53.5% luck-based cover probability. But I like it more than that. Our schedule-adjusted expected scores, which power the luck rankings, actually make this more like a 50-50 game. Literally, the Giants are 0.1 point underdogs by schedule-adjusted expected scores. So pretty much a coin flip. And I really like the matchup here for Jackson Dart. He has actually had a better adjusted net yards per attempt against the blitz than when he's not being, extra men are sent against him. And obviously he's great scrambling as well. So Minnesota generating the pressure doesn't really change a whole lot there. So I think this is a good matchup for Jackson Dart. So give me the Giants plus 2.5.
Yeah, and I mean, backing the Vikings right now, I mean, of course, they looked half decent against the Cowboys, but even against the Giants, you could just see JJ McCarthy turning into a pumpkin at any point. So that is the first pick. The luck rankings, Giants plus 2.5 facing the Minnesota Vikings. Where are we headed to next?
Yeah, so for the next one, we're going to go to a total, and this is a strong luck under. So we have weak luck under and strong luck under categories. And this one's a strong luck under for Pittsburgh versus Detroit. Make sure to get over, I should say under 52, 51 and a half, 52 and a half, but make sure you're getting above that 51 key number is what I was trying to say. But I think everywhere right now is above that 51 key number. Again, strong luck under, luck total is minus 1.96. Anything below minus 1.8 is a strong luck under. And all luck totals since week 9, which is usually when the luck totals really kick into gear, that has happened again this year. They are 11-2 since week 9. Our schedule adjusted expected scores make this below the key number of 51, actually closer to below 50, like 49.5. So definitely some value here on the under for Pittsburgh versus Detroit.
Right. And I think the one thing that I love when you bring up these like large totals and you take an under is like, look, I'm not saying there's only going to be 30 points. There's still going to be some touchdowns scored, but we're going to fall below these numbers here. And I think that's the one thing sometimes there's a disconnect sometimes when people see an under on a total like that, right? So under 52.5, Steelers Lions is the second luck ranked based or luck side or luck total. There's so many lucks. What is the third one we doing?
Yeah, another luck total. This time we are going to the Buffalo Bills versus Cleveland Browns game, and we're taking the under here of 41. Make sure you're getting that 41. That is a key number in the NFL as well. So you definitely want to get that under 41. This is a weak luck under, so it doesn't meet the minus 1.8 threshold, but it does meet our minus 1.5 threshold with a minus 1.65 luck total. There is some weather in this game, as you guys alluded to earlier, 15-mile-an-hour winds. And did I mention luck totals are 11-2 since week 9? I mean, this is just the time of year you kind of have to almost blindly bet the luck totals. I've neglected them a little bit since week 9. I've bet a few here and there, but I probably should have just been betting every single one of these because I'd be up a few more units if I'd just taken every single one of these. So our schedule adjusted expected scores is making this below the key number of 41 as well. So make sure you get at least a 41 there for Buffalo versus Cleveland and take the under.
Yeah, I like this. I like this one, especially because it correlates too with both Raybon's bet and my bet of the Allen interception and Tillman under. So let's just recap these three picks before we get you out of here. So you're on the Giants plus 2.5. You were on the under Steelers Lions 52.5, and the under on the Bills Browns under 41. Make sure to get those key numbers of 51 or 52.5 or the 41 as well for Bills Browns. So that is the luck rankings with Dr. Nick Giffen. Make sure to follow him on the Action app at Nick_Giffen. You could also catch him in the Action Network Discord hosting Bet What Happens Live for all the primetime games. So Nick, why don't you take a quick breather? I'll bring you back on. We're going to do a lotto parlay here in a second. Let's now talk with Evan Abrams. He's my go-to guy when it comes to the latest betting trends and data, how the market is moving, especially for those sides and totals. You can read his weekly betting primer on the Action Network app, and he's also have it pinned as well on his X and Twitter profile. So, Evan, let's start with, I believe, Sunday Night Football, where there's a lot of going on right now with this Ravens-Patriots game.
I mean, yeah, you got to start with that only because of the bet percentage. It's a little wild to see the Ravens sitting as 3-point favorites, New England underdogs in back-to-back weeks. But you look at our betting percentages right now, Ravens getting 16% of the tickets right now at home. Lamar's lowest bet percentage in his career is 10 percentage points higher at 26%. Obviously, a long way to go.
Yeah.
So some things to look for before kickoff, but 16% right now would be the lowest of Lamar's career. And for Baltimore in general, 19% last 20 years would be their record. So right now, just seeing a low ticket count for Baltimore tonight. Obviously, records, all different types of things kind of working there. And if you look at the big four public sides today for us, all on the road: New England, Buffalo, Chargers, Vikings. What could go wrong, right?
I mean, I'm just shocked with that percentage, man, because like I would have thought the Ravens would have been more of the popular pick given that they're home. You know, it's not a huge spread, right? But wow, only 14% of tickets. That is pretty wild for people not wanting to back the Ravens here in this spot. I want to talk about some of the teams that get shut out here because I find that trend to be really interesting of how a team may get shut out and how they perform after that. What's the kind of the trends that come with that kind of status for teams that get shut out the week before?
Yeah, it's mostly just perception in the market. So yeah, the Raiders and Bengals were shut out last week, and historically that has created some value when it comes to the spread. So since 2015, teams off a shutout in their previous game are 35-17 against the spread, 5-0 against the spread this season. You've seen it with the Commanders recently, and this week you got the Raiders and Bengals in that spot. A little unique that the Bengals are laying points off the shutout versus the Raiders who are getting over 2 touchdowns. So bit of a different situation there, but nonetheless, trend holds, and we'll see how it goes today. But hold your breath.
Yeah, and it was even the Vikings too, I believe, covered as well after getting shut out. Very interesting spot here when you see these teams, they get shut out and just how the market tends to just completely be out on them, but yet they still end up covering the spread, probably because the number is a little inflated on that side. What about the Panthers? Because I find the Carolina Panthers, they weren't a team I was very high on this year, but what's the latest status with them going into this game against Tampa Bay?
Yeah, home dogs today against the Bucks, and this year 7 outright wins for Carolina as underdogs. If they were to win today, it would tie for the most regular season wins as an underdog in the Super Bowl era, with the 2015 Washington team who also won 8 such games. So we will see how that goes for Carolina, but obviously rolling under expectations and coming up to the tide right now in terms of how they're doing with their win total, trying to win the division, all sorts of things on the line for Carolina. And the fact that they lost last week, they are 6-0 against the spread this year after a loss, best mark in the NFL. So they have been the bounce back kings. We always talk about Detroit, who are also in that spot, won 15 straight off a loss, but Carolina 6-0 against the spread. So see how they do, +3 at home against Tampa today.
Yeah, and I have no problem admitting I would have been one of those squares that that would have bet against them in a lot of those spots, just because again, coming into the season, I was just not very high on Carolina, and they have for the most part, proved me wrong. So let's talk about Bet Labs and Parlay Science. By the way, shout out to Parlay Science hitting that first touchdown score parlay last night. Just great work there. So let's talk about Bet Labs and just maybe some of the systems that are out there to use. And what is it pointing to? Like what kind of side, or is there any pick that the system is pointing to today for week 16?
Yeah, they got a few picks there in the Discord. I'm going to pluck one out as usual. I think we've won last 2 or 3 weeks on this, so we'll see
Nice.
how that goes today. But Cleveland plus 10.5 right now against Buffalo, double-digit dogs, 27-16 since 2020, cover the spread by 4 points per game. And also, this is an interesting note I came up with. So Cleveland has actually been a house of horrors for good teams traveling on the road since 2020. They are 13-6 straight up versus teams above 500. They have profited a better $1,100 in that spot, best mark in the NFL. So usually a difficult spot for some teams to go into. Not usually the offensive side they're worried about. Defense usually stepping up. Obviously, Miles going for the record as well. So we will see how that goes. But Josh also not great as a double-digit favorite. 2-7, 3-9 last few years ATS in that spot. So we will see how the Browns do. Double-digit dogs up to 10.5 right now at home against Buffalo.
Yeah, we've seen it many times where Cleveland always has just this horrible weather as we're like, we were capped, right? Like where these totals are so low and it always was like a Cleveland game and it was this high-end offense going in there and then just completely neutralized because they're just not used to the elements, right? So Cleveland plus 10.5, one of the biggest dogs of the week, I believe, or the biggest dog of the week. And right now a total of like only 41 in that game. So from a luck ranking standpoint, we love Cleveland plus 10.5 and we like the under in that game as well. So, all right. So that is the Bet Labs pick of the week. I want you to make sure to check out Evan's weekly betting primer. He's also going to be live tonight with Brandon Anderson for the week 16 recap show on the Action Network podcast and the Action Network YouTube feed. So, Evan, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.
All right. Enjoy.
All right, everyone, time to take it up a notch. Time to hit the lotto. We get a bit crazy, try to find a plus EV parlay. And joining me is Grant Neefer from Scores and Odds. And as I mentioned, you can find him in the Parlay Science Discord. He's dropping bets in there. And of course, Nick Giffen is going to join us this week. He's going to find some value in some long shot markets, maybe some OT props, exact scores. I mean, he was DMing me last night about exact scores for Packers Bears at like 500 to 1 kind of thing. So he's always finding some awesome angles here. So let's start with Grant. So what do you want to do for week 16, Grant?
Oh, I got a fun one. 130 to 1 lotto over at Bet365. You can still get it at plus 110 or 110 to 1 over at FanDuel and DraftKings. But starting off with the first leg, A.D. Mitchell to score a touchdown. You can find him anywhere from plus 300, plus 325. He's been getting targeted heavily the last 3 weeks. 12, 6, and 9 targets, scored twice in that span, going up against the Saints, who are really a below average pass defense. This game should be close. They're probably going to let Cook throw the ball a decent amount. A.D. Mitchell is kind of taking over the number one wide receiver job over there, so getting plus 300, plus 325, far too high. Next up, Darren Waller, 60 plus receiving yards. You can find between plus 400, plus 450. Waller has been up and down this season. Obviously, he's been injured, but when he's played well, he has played very well. 66 yards versus the Steelers last game. Carolina, week 4, I think, had 78 yards. He's getting a matchup versus the Bengals, who are historically bad versus the tight end, if you've been listening to me say that all season long. They have been absolutely horrific. Over 300 yards more allowed to opposing tight ends than any other team in the league. 6 more touchdowns allowed more than any other team in the league. 33% of opposing teams' targets go to the tight end. I know yours is going to be in there, but let's be honest, can't be much worse than Tua. They're still going to pass the ball a decent amount, being pretty big dogs here. Bengals are going to put up points. There's a chance they put up a lot of points, and they're really forced to throw. Waller going to be the most likely guy to get a ton of volume here outside of Waddle. So this line far too high. And lastly, Jacoby Brissett, 325 plus passing yards. You can get him at plus 500. Now, he has only hit under 250 passing yards once this entire season. That was last week against the Texans. He got 249, but he has been throwing the ball a massive amount. 40 plus pass attempts nearly every single game this season. Only 2 games where he did not throw the ball 40 times. Current line is at 37.5 at most books, and he is going to be chucking the ball a lot. So this is one of his easiest matchups of the entire last 8 weeks, where he's faced number 1, the number 2, and the number 3 past DVOA defenses. all of which he put up at least 249 yards against. So going up against a team in the Falcons that are much worse than those teams against the pass, he should be passing the ball a lot, and I could easily see him getting 350 plus. I laddered him all the way up to 350 plus at plus 850. So parlay all of them together, 130 to 1 odds over at Bet365.
Oh my Lord. And I think with Brissett too, like the thing that would set up this one so well is if the Falcons just even get maybe a couple scores early, maybe they go up like 10-0 or 14-0, because that's when you just see that Cardinals passing game, especially in the second half. Nick can attest to it. He was taking the overs in those games when they would get bet down like that, right? So Jacoby Brissett, and then AD Mitchell. The other thing that I would just comment too, the Saints, they play single high at like top 5 rate. That's where he like takes off. It really sees his targets per route run take off as well. And then Darren Waller, I feel like is pretty self-explanatory given what we've seen the Bengals do against tight ends. So the parlay 131 to 1 at Bet365. That is the lotto that we're doing with Grant. We now move over to Nick, who's doing a kind of a hodgepodge. It's got a touchdown prop in this one, but it's a little bit of everything here. What are we doing, Nick?
Yeah, it's the hodgepodge parlay. 4 different games, 4 different markets. So let's start with my favorite of them all, Mike Evans, anytime touchdown plus 155. Look, he's got a touchdown in 21 of 39 games, including the playoffs, that Baker Mayfield has been his quarterback. He came back with a vengeance last week, 12 targets, 6 receptions, over 130 receiving yards. And the Carolina Panthers aren't scary versus outside wide receivers. They've allowed double-digit touchdowns to players aligned out wide this season. So first leg, Mike Evans, anytime touchdown. For the second leg, I am going to stay in the NFC South, and I'm going to take Tyler Shuck to have 30-plus rushing yards. You can get that at plus 170. I love this one. He has cleared this in each of the last 2 games, but more importantly than that is the matchup here. There are 3 defenses in the NFL. You want to take quarterback second run against those defenses. One is Kansas City. The next is Tampa Bay. And the third is the New York Jets, who he's facing right now. Those are the top 3 in quarterback scramble rate adjusted over expectation. And look, Shuck just put up 32 rushing yards on the Carolina Panthers, who are one of the bottom 5 or 6 scramble rate defenses. He put up 55 versus that Tampa Bay team that we talked about. So I love for him to go for 30-plus yards against the New York Jets here. For the third one, a fun one here. We're going to go Jacksonville Jaguars on the money line to upset the Denver Broncos in Denver. Our schedule adjusted expected scores, which power our luck rankings, make this game almost exactly a coin flip. Denver may be favored by a quarter point here, but more importantly, the quarterback coverage matchups. Bo Nix struggled versus zone. The Jags play top 10 zone rate. And Trevor Lawrence has been great versus man coverage, and Denver, one of the top man defenses. So I think the matchup set up well here to where if these teams need to throw, it's going to favor Jacksonville in the passing game more than it'll favor Denver in a passing game in what should be a close game. And for the final leg, we're going to go to Oronde Gadsden, 50-plus receiving yards for the Los Angeles Chargers against the Dallas Cowboys. I was looking at the coverages that the Cowboys play. Obviously, they play a lot of zone coverage, but specifically cover 2 and cover 3 have been where Oronde Gadsden has had his best efficiency output, and the Cowboys play both of those at much higher rates than Gadsden has faced this year, so we can expect an increased efficiency from him. So give me Gadsden 50-plus receiving yards. That parlay as a whole comes to 43 to 1 at Bet365 or 37 to 1 at FanDuel. And you know me, Gilles, I'm round robining all these legs.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think the funny thing too about Tyler Shuck is he's kind of made Taysom Hill not even a factor anymore in this offense. And Oronde Gadsden, I mean, we always joke we call him Orange, but 50-plus receiving yards does seem very doable against the
Cowboys allow 55 per game to the tight end, and he's the tight end there in Los Angeles. One other thing I didn't mention, the Jets defense, they faced 5 mall Santas this year. If you remove the mall Santas, they allow 30.6 scramble yards per game. So definitely like that 30-plus here for Tyler Shuck.
Yeah, I wouldn't define Shuck as a mall Santa yet in his career. Again, both of these parlays, if you want to tail either of these parlays, either from Grant or Nick, we just dropped quick slip links in the YouTube chat. You can grab those links, tail that, so that way you don't have to try and find all the different menus and build that out. Just seeing some news. Keon Coleman, healthy scratch again this week. Well, that's the way she goes, I guess. All right. The co-hosts of Bet What Happens Live. You guys are going to be in the Action Network Discord during the primetime games. So keep crushing it with that. We'll see you back on the island for Action Island soon enough. Let's bring Kerner and Raybon back on here. I want to talk about Sunday Night Football, Patriots Ravens again, because I really like this game. And right now, Ravens, slight home favorites, 3-point favorites. We talked about that with Evan right now, not getting a lot of tickets on the side, and total around 48 and a half. So Kerner, when we did the Touchdown Show podcast together, you had given out, I believe, Kayshon Boutte as for an anytime touchdown. Are we sticking with that, or are you going to move to a different one?
No, I'm letting Raybon have that. I still like that though. I'm gonna go with the person throwing him the ball, Drake May, over 242 and a half passing yards here. Because I just think this is a great time to buy low on him after,
Mhm.
snapping a 9-game streak where he was averaging over 8 yards a pass attempt. So I think he's going to get back on track here against the Ravens defense. It's been more of a pass funnel one. They rank 8th in DVOA against the run, 21st against the pass. But the Pats are 3-point dogs here, which is pretty rare. So they're
Mhm.
expected to trail at about a 23% higher rate than their season average. So they could be even more pass heavy here. So I grabbed this at 239 and a half. Last night, still like it at 242 and a half. Passing yard markets, it's a wide range of outcomes. So still like it there. I'm projecting them just over 250 here, right around
Mhm.
251 and a half passing yards.
All right, so Drake May over 242 and a half passing yards. That is the prop from Sean Kerner. Now, Raybon, Kerner kind of mentioned it that you're probably looking at Booties up here. Tell us why you like Kayshon Boutte to score a touchdown in this game.
Yeah, I like Kayshawn to score a touchdown. So the big thing with him is he aligns primarily at the left wide receiver spot in the Patriot offense. And Baltimore, they have Chidobe Awuzie. He's been a stationary right corner, which means he would match up against that left wide receiver almost all the time. About 90% of the time, he's on that in that right corner spot. But he's doubtful with a foot injury, and he had a 78.3 PFF coverage grade this year. That is number 4 out of 112 cornerbacks. So top 5 corner in Awuzie. And then Nate Wiggins taking his place is kind of middle of the pack. He dropped from a 78 to a 61 grade. So I think Boutte, especially given the fact that he's run the most routes on the Patriots now for about the last month of the season at wide receiver. I think he has a good shot to score here, especially as Kerner alluded to, kind of could be a trailing game script here for the Patriots, which is somewhat rare for them over the past few months.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kayshon Boutte, anytime touchdown is going to be Raybon's pick. I went with Lamar Jackson when we did the Touchdown Show podcast. I'm going to stick with him here. I know he only has 2 touchdowns this year. I know he's not running as much, but I think part of that was a health issue. I think he is trending towards getting healthier. We did just see him run for a touchdown versus the Steelers in Week 14. He didn't really have to scramble at all against the Bengals last week. And I just think this is one of those spots where you want to grab him where he'll scramble and call his own numbers. So the fact that, he's around plus 260, plus 270, I feel like if you can get plus 300 right now on Lamar Jackson for a touchdown, that's where I would go for this game. And if you parlay those 3 bets together, Drake May, Kayshon Boutte, and Lamar Jackson, I'm seeing around 18 to 1. If you want to tail this parlay though, we just dropped the quick slip link in the YouTube chat so you could tail that parlay. All right, Raybon. We'll see you next week on the Fantasy Flex podcast. Also, we're going to be doing a Touchdown Show podcast earlier in the week for Christmas week. That'll be coming out, I believe, Tuesday evening to preview all the games for week 17. And Kerner, why don't you do some touchdowns with me? Let's do some touchdowns now. Touchdown Show as usual. So, Kerner, you are joining me this week. You always crush the touchdown props with your sharp angles and edges. So we're going to start off with our lowest odds and we'll work our way up. So where are you going with your first pick, Kerner?
Yeah, so my first one, I'm gonna go George Pickens here. It looks like he's down to plus 170, but if you recall, this is my favorite play from the touchdown show earlier this week. And he's cooled off the past couple games, and sorry, Jill, but the Cowboys are now officially
Yes,
eliminated
they
after
are.
the Eagles win. So, it seems like they have nothing to play for, but Pickens has plenty to play for. He's expected to, sign that huge contract in the offseason, so he needs to really step up these last few games to really boost up, how much he's going to be worth on that big contract.
Yeah, I don't know if you could hear the pain in my laugh, like when I was saying that they're officially
Yeah,
eliminated now. But yes, they are officially eliminated. So yes, but that doesn't mean that George Pickens is eliminated. He obviously wants to get that big
exactly.
contract. So if you could still get it around plus 170, that is Kerner's first touchdown prop. I already gave out Mike Evans on the Action app earlier in the week around plus 180. I still love it at plus 155. It's my favorite touchdown bet of the week. And I gave that out on the Touchdown Show pod because I feel like after one game, I was a little doubtful of how he was going to be used in that game last week. After that, I've seen enough because clearly Baker Mayfield is favoring him as a top target in this offense, and he can excel versus zone or man coverage. So that's one of the reasons why I love betting on him for a touchdown prop because it's not really defense dependent. Panthers. Nick brought this up, but 30th in defensive DVOA versus wide receiver ones, just giving a lot of touchdowns to outside receivers. I'm going to ladder him for 2 touchdowns as well. We'll talk about that here in a second. Kerner, what is the next? This one, this next prop here that I like is just it's a throwback touchdown prop. That's kind of what I would call it. What are we doing?
I'm going to go with Isaiah Hodgins here at plus 650 against the Vikings, but he's been a full-time player, ever since the Giants, I guess, reclaimed him, his return to the starting lineup. But he's out there running around on like 85% of darts dropbacks these last 4 games. And he's a bigger bodied receiver. He's 6'3", which should make him, one of darts' top targets in the red zone. He did score, 3 games ago. So after 2 duds, I just think the market's overlooking him here. I took his over 12.5 receiving yards prop yesterday, and also think he's a sneaky bet here because I'm projecting him closer to plus 550. So yeah, plus 650. He's showing some decent value here.
Yeah, I was saying throwback because it was like 3 seasons ago where the Giants had their little run and actually beat the Vikings. And Isaiah Hodgins,
Yeah.
coincidentally, was also somebody who scored in that game as well in that playoff game. So Isaiah Hodgins plus 650 is Kerner's next prop. My next prop is not as high as that. It's around plus 300. Right now, I love Jaden Higgins. I grabbed him at plus 320, 4 touchdowns. He's a bit streaky, but I think he's still the clear wide receiver 2 in this offense, Kerner. Like he's third most routes on the team. Obviously, he's not going to be running as many routes as Nico Collins or Dalton Schultz, but faced on the Raiders, play a zone at the top rate in the NFL, a lot of single high safety, and Higgins has seen a target bump versus those coverages. So, and I think Stroud in this passing game, just recently, they've been playing pretty good, and this Raiders defense is awful. So I love this matchup for Jaden Higgins. Now, Kerner, this next one, I now know who he is, but I had to look up who this guy was when you put it on the rundown of who you were betting. So who is this guy that you're betting for a touchdown prop for your spicy bet?
Yeah, I'm going with Corey Kiner, a running back for the Cardinals. He's 10-1 against the Falcons today, but I think he's a sneaky long shot because the Cardinals are now down their top 3 running backs with Bam Knight, now the latest injured back they had to place on IR. So, Michael Carter should step up and be the lead back here with Amari DiMercado mixing in as, the pass catching specialist. But Kiner could mix in more than people realize. He was an undrafted free agent out of Cincy that Shanahan took. So he opened the season up on the 49ers. Looked great in preseason. I think he was averaging around 6 yards a carry. Had 2 carries last week, averaged 5.5 yards a pop. So I think he's sneaky here, and the Cardinals have nothing to play for, so they might as well give him, a few carries. So at 10-1, I think he's a sneaky long shot here because there's so much volatility here that he's the one that's going to benefit from that volatility. So I'm projecting him closer to 8-1. So I think it's too good to be true to pass up at 10-1 here.
I'm glad that you used that was literally the word that came to my mind of volatility or volatile. Like was just like of that
Yeah.
backfield, like where it's just all over the place. Like this might as well be the Jawar Jordan bet of the week. Like you know what I mean? Like where it's Corey Kiner, you're
Yeah.
taking a guy who has a good opportunity here. We're not getting 30-1, the way Raybon's throwing that out last week, but 10 to
Yeah,
1
we
still
would
pretty
need
good for.
we would need Carter to get knocked out early on, and then just he's the lead back. But yeah, this is sort of similar to Jahar Jordan, and he was some book offered him at like 25 early in the week, so
Yeah.
the books finally came to their senses. But this is a lot like the Jordan one, where he just has a ton of upside just due to the uncertainty.
Well, and even Carter could get benched. You know what I mean? Like there's times where he was in just, at that time too. So, all right. My spicy touchdown bets. So I mentioned that I was laddering Mike Evans for 2 touchdowns. I don't think I have to go too deep into that. Everybody on gambling Twitter is pretty much on Mike Evans to score today. It's around 14-1. So I still love that bet. But the long shot that I like this week, I gave this out on the Touchdown Show pod. And it's a true revenge game spot where there's revenge, but there's actually data that could support the revenge. And that's Tim Patrick with the Jaguars right now facing the Broncos. He's around 10-1 to score a touchdown this week. Not sure if people remember, but he used to be on the Broncos, had some really good touchdown moments, had a 6-touchdown season, a 5-touchdown season. But since Jacoby Myers has come to the team, the wide receiver rotation has been in flux because now they're putting him and Brian Thomas Jr. on the outside. Typically, Jacoby Myers is lining up in the slot, but now Tim Patrick is still being steadily fed in this offense despite Jacoby Myers' emergence and Brian Thomas Jr. coming back from injury. Like over the last 5 games, Patrick has the highest targets per route run versus man defenses, which the Broncos play at a top 3 rate, and 4 red zone targets in that stretch with the touchdown. So I think as well, the fact that he's been lining up in the slot, he's going to probably avoid that Patrick Surtain matchup, which would allow him to just have more success in general. So Tim Patrick at 10-1 is my favorite long shot bet of the week, along with Mike Evans. But I want to do a parlay of these props that we have, Kerner. So I think Mike Evans is a natural first leg. I love George Pickens in this matchup to get a little bit of redemption against the Chargers. How do we feel about rounding this out with Jaden Higgins? Because I'm pretty sure on the Touchdown Show podcast, you were pretty high on Higgins to score in this matchup.
Yeah. I think he's been my favorite touchdown bet a couple weeks now. So I let you have that. So 100% chance he's going to score this week. So love this. Love the fact that we get 3 really good wide receivers at just under 30-1. So love this parlay.
Yeah, like it's 27-1 at FanDuel. I'm seeing just under 28-1 at Bet365. It's the Mike Evans, George Pickens, Jaden Higgins. So it's the ins touchdown show parlay this week. So if you want to tail that touchdown parlay, we just dropped that link in the YouTube chat, so you can tail that one there. So that is all for today. Thank you for watching Action Playbook Live. We're going to be back here next Sunday. We're going to be here every Sunday, though, right up until the Super Bowl. We're going to air at 11 a.m. Eastern. So if you miss the show, you want to get our picks, download the Action app. All of our bets are tracked there, and you can get them as soon as we bet them with pick notifications. So thank you for watching Action Playbook Live for NFL Week 16. Bon chance.